Tonight, we are turning our attention toward one of the simplest things your dog does, and one of the least examined. Why does a dog need to sleep touching you in order to feel safe? If you have ever watched your dog press against your leg in the night and wondered whether it was comfort or need, science says it is both, and neither word is quite large enough. What your dog is doing when it chooses to sleep touching you is not a habit. It is the oldest answer it knows to the oldest question. Where do I belong? Welcome to Sleepy Animal Psychology. Wherever you are, right now, bed drawn, lights low, perhaps a familiar weight already settled against your feet or your side. Allow yourself this particular kind of stillness. Tonight, we will follow 100 facts about the science of why dogs sleep the way they do. From the pack memory still running in your dog's nervous system, to the neurochemistry that makes contact feel like safety, to the quiet truth of what it means when a dog chooses to stay close. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You are where warm fur rises and falls in the dark beside you. Let your mind settle into that weight. And now we begin. A dog circles before lying down, turning once, twice, sometimes 3 times, before folding into the same shape against the same surface it has chosen. Researchers call this nesting behavior, and it is one of the most conserved rituals in canine life. Wild canines pack down grass or leaves to create a safe depression. Domestic dogs still perform the motion even on carpet, even on a thick blanket, even on a bed they have slept in 1,000 times. The behavior was functional before dogs knew what beds were. The ground needed testing. The perimeter needed mapping. Now it is ceremonial, a way of saying, this place, this body, this warmth, this is where sleep begins. Before the circle, there is a choice. Your dog sniffs the space. It reads thermal cues, where the warmth is, where you have recently been. In a study at the Family Dog Project in Budapest, dogs allowed to freely choose their sleeping location consistently chose proximity to their person over warmth alone, over a softer surface alone, over a more secluded spot. Contact was the variable that mattered most across all conditions. Not the mattress, not the room temperature, not the quiet corner with extra cushions. You were the factor that changed everything. The dog made its decision in the first breath of the room. Dogs are descended from wolves, but the wolf comparison breaks down quickly when it comes to sleep. Wolves sleep in packs for warmth and collective protection. Does. Even solitary dogs in homes with only one person often seek out that single human rather than a cluster of warmth. Researchers at the University of Helsinki found that the dog's preference for human proximity during sleep is distinct from general pack behavior, something that developed specifically within the human-dog relationship, shaped over thousands of years of close living. It is not pack instinct simply repurposed. It is a new instinct entirely, grown from a different kind of belonging. The word Thigmotaxis describes the instinct to seek contact with a solid surface. In insects, it explains why they press against walls. In small mammals, it explains the burrow. In dogs, it explains something more layered. The drive to sleep touching something warm, solid, and reassuringly still. The science of Thigmotaxis was first studied in invertebrates, where the behavior has clear survival value. Predators find moving targets, not pressed ones. Researchers were surprised to find its neurological signature persisting in mammals. In dogs, the preferred surface is almost always a person. The body of someone trusted registers, neurologically, as safe ground. A dog's heart rate slows measurably when it is in physical contact with its person. Studies measuring cortisol, the hormone most associated with stress and alertness, show significant drops in dogs who sleep pressed against a human compared to dogs sleeping nearby but not in contact. The margin is not small. The gap between touching and not touching, neurologically, is the gap between a nervous system genuinely at rest and a nervous system still quietly waiting for something to go wrong. Touch is not comfort added on top of safety. Touch is safety, translated directly into the body's own language. The bond between dogs and humans is sometimes described as mutually regulatory, meaning each species calms the other's physiology through proximity alone. When a person strokes a dog, their own cortisol drops. When a dog lies against a person, the dog's breathing slows and its heart rate decreases. What looks from the outside like a simple sleeping arrangement is, neurochemically, a two-way regulation system that neither party designed and both have come to rely on. No contract was signed. No decision was made consciously by either species. The bodies simply learned each other over years and settled into the rhythm of it. Puppies are born with their eyes and ears sealed completely. For the first 2 weeks of life, they experience the world entirely through touch and temperature. They press against their mother's side, against their littermates, against anything warm they encounter. This early learning, that touch means safety, that proximity means survival, is not later overwritten by experience. It is the template from which all other learning is built. The dog sleeping against your leg tonight has not forgotten what it learned before it could see or hear anything at all. It carries that first lesson in its nervous system. It never needed to revise it. In the wild, the most vulnerable moment in any social mammal's day is sleep. Heart rate slows. Awareness narrows to almost nothing. The body opens itself to repair in a way it cannot do while alert. Wild canines minimize this vulnerability by sleeping in contact so that any vibration, any warmth shift, any subtle change in breathing from a neighbor wakes the whole group faster than any one individual could manage alone. Your dog sleeping against you is, in one sense, still running this ancient protocol every night. You are the pack. Your breathing is the signal. Nothing can arrive in the dark without you knowing first. Dogs have a concept of safe zones that researchers call social sleeping spaces. These are distinct from resting spots chosen for comfort alone. A social sleeping space has 3 defining qualities: familiarity, low-threat cues in the environment, and the presence of a trusted social partner. Dogs denied access to a trusted social partner will often choose the place that smells most like their person. A worn shirt left on the floor, a recently used blanket, over a warmer or softer space that carries none of that scent. The presence of a person, even in olfactory form, is enough to begin down-regulating the nervous system. but the body keeps waiting. Still, for the real thing. Here is the first thing the science makes clear. When your dog sleeps touching you, it is not seeking comfort as a luxury. It is seeking contact as a physiological requirement. The distinction matters. A dog denied proximity to its person during sleep shows measurable stress indicators, elevated cortisol levels, fragmented sleep cycles, reduced REM duration, and higher rates of nighttime waking. The need is real. The reaching toward you is real. And the question the science began seriously asking: why does contact between this specific species and this specific species produce such consistent physiological calm? Is still being answered. One study at a time. Dogs track your sleep. Research at a major European behavioral science university showed that dogs sharing a sleeping space with a person synchronize their sleep architecture to their owners, adjusting their own sleep-wake cycles to match. This is not incidental proximity. Dogs actively monitor the breathing and movement of the person they sleep with, and adjust their own depth of sleep accordingly. A lighter sleeper next to you means your dog sleeps lighter too. A person who is restless produces a more vigilant dog. The synchrony is precise, and it is not passive. Your dog is paying attention even while it sleeps. Dogs have 3 distinct sleeping positions with different physiological signatures. Solo curling, belly in with all limbs tucked, is associated with environments where the dog is uncertain, cold, or unconfident. Lateral sprawl, on the side with the body fully extended, appears only in dogs who feel genuinely secure. Since this position exposes the belly completely. Contact position, pressed against another body, produces the longest sleep bouts and the deepest sleep architecture of all 3. When your dog lies full length against you, sprawled and open, it is not just resting. It is displaying the neurological signature of complete safety. That posture is not available to a nervous system that is not certain. The science of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, shows consistent elevation in dogs after physical contact with their person during sleep or rest. One study measured oxytocin in dogs before and after a 10-minute lying session with their owner. Oxytocin rose in both the dog and the person. The rise was not dependent on active petting or play. Sustained proximity and contact alone were sufficient to produce it. The body does not require effort to bond. It requires presence. Sleeping beside your dog, even silently, even completely still, is a biochemical event that neither of you has to consciously try for. Dogs have a nuanced geography of trust that maps onto the person's body. Where a dog chooses to press during sleep is not random. It is calibrated to the dog's current level of felt security. Dogs in unfamiliar environments or situations of uncertainty tend to press against the lower leg, the most grounded, most stable part of the person. Dogs in familiar, genuinely secure environments often migrate upward over time, pressing against the torso or chest, seeking the rhythm of the person's breathing directly. The body the dog presses against is a map of its own internal state. Where it presses tells you where it currently lives emotionally. A study tracking sleep quality in adult dogs across multiple households found that dogs who slept in physical contact with their owner showed significantly longer continuous sleep bouts and markedly higher delta wave brain activity during those bouts. Delta waves are the signature of deep, restorative sleep, the phase during which growth hormone releases, cellular repair accelerates, and memory consolidation processes integrate the day's experience. Your dog does not just sleep longer next to you. It sleeps better in every measurable dimension. The depth of its rest depends, demonstrably, on whether you are present and close. Dogs are not the only species that consistently seeks contact sleep. Elephants sleep trunk to trunk, and researchers have documented that isolated elephants show measurably poorer sleep quality. Bonobos sleep in contact groups. Sea otters float in, holding formations with paws touching. In nearly every social mammal studied in naturalistic conditions, contact during sleep is associated with improved sleep quality, lower stress hormone levels, and faster physiological recovery from stresses encountered during waking hours. The drive to sleep, touching something warm and trusted, is ancient. Dogs refined it for a specific partner. But the original blueprint was written long before the first dog met the first human. When dogs are separated from their owners, in boarding facilities, veterinary hospitals, or any circumstance where their person is absent, researchers observe a consistent behavioral pattern during sleep attempts. Dogs seek the perimeter of the sleeping space, press their bodies against the wall, and circle the area repeatedly before finally settling into a restless version of sleep. The wall substitutes for a body in the most literal way the nervous system knows. The pressing is the same neural request. Give me something solid, something that will not move, something I can regulate against. The dog has not forgotten what it needs. It is simply working with less than it needs. There is a specific muscle group in dogs that relaxes only during contact sleep. The temporal and masseter muscles, the jaw muscles, hold a measurable level of subtle tension during solo sleep that resolves almost completely when the dog is in physical contact with its person. Dental researchers studying canine jaw tension as a secondary variable first noticed this unexpectedly. A dog sleeping against its person does not clench. The body opens, not just in posture, but in the deepest involuntary muscular layers that the dog has no conscious access to. The face softens in a way that does not happen when the dog sleeps alone. Dogs remember sleeping positions with a specificity that researchers describe as spatial social memory. Behavioral studies found that dogs form stable memories of sleeping arrangements and show measurable stress responses when those arrangements change unexpectedly. A dog that has slept against the same person for years does not treat that position as incidental. The position is remembered. The contact is expected. When a person who usually sleeps beside a dog is absent, the dog will often position itself on that side of the bed anyway, pressing against the residual warmth in the sheets, against the scent still present, against the shape of where the body has always been. Your dog's breathing changes in a specific way when it lies against you. The inhale to exhale ratio shifts. The exhale becomes noticeably longer. In respiratory physiology, a longer exhale is the signature of parasympathetic nervous system activation, the rest and digest state, the neurological opposite of threat response. The dog's body is not simply at rest. it is actively downregulating. The exhale is longer because the nervous system has concluded. Nothing is coming. Nothing needs watching. The work of the day is complete. This breath, slow, unhurried, fully released, is the breath of a system that has finally found what it was searching for. Researchers studying the coevolution of dogs and humans have proposed that the human body, specifically its warmth output and its rhythmic breathing, became a primary external regulator of canine nervous system function during the domestication process. In other words, dogs may have evolved to specifically use human presence as a biological calmant in a way that goes beyond simple comfort. Not human kindness or attention. Human proximity. The heat signature of a human body at rest. The rhythm of its breathing. The predictable beat of its heart. These became the inputs a dog's autonomic nervous system learned to read as the all-clear signal. The dog is not just choosing you. The dog is physiologically regulated by you. There are dogs who do not seek contact sleep. Researchers have identified a subset, often those with early socialization deficits, trauma histories, or specific anxiety profiles, who actively avoid body contact during sleep, even with people they trust deeply in waking life. These dogs show elevated cortisol levels during sleep, regardless of the environment, and fragmented sleep architectures that do not improve with human proximity the way most dogs do. For these dogs, the biology still runs the request. The nervous system still sends the reaching signal. But the early learning that contact is safe was never fully completed. The reaching was interrupted before it could arrive at what it needed. One of the most consistent findings across canine sleep research is that dogs who sleep in contact with their person age better across multiple health markers. A longitudinal study of dogs over age 7 found that regular contact sleeping was associated with lower inflammatory markers, slower cognitive decline, and longer total sleep duration across the entire late life period examined. The researchers noted that the exact mechanism was not fully determined, but the correlation was strong enough to suggest that what dogs need for good sleep in old age is the same thing they needed as puppies. A warm body, the presence of someone familiar, the continuous evidence of not being alone. Dogs who sleep touching their person respond differently to sudden sounds in the night compared to dogs sleeping nearby but not in contact. When a noise occurs, a dog sleeping in physical contact with a person shows a shorter startle response and a quicker return to baseline calm than one sleeping a foot away without touching. The physical connection appears to provide continuous background reassurance that does not need to be re-established after a disturbance. The dog does not have to check. Is my person still there? The answer is already present, felt through the skin, continuous, needing no renewal. Safety does not have to be searched for when it is already arrived. By the time a dog is an adult, the pattern is set. It knows which side of the bed. It knows the weight of the covers that will come. It knows the change in breathing that means the person is asleep. It positions itself before the lights go out. It adjusts as the night deepens. And somewhere in this, in the daily returning, the precise positioning, the whole quiet architecture of its nightly choice, is the answer the science has been building toward. The dog is not sleeping near you. It is sleeping with you. That distinction, lived out every night across a shared lifespan, is what it has been trying to say. You are also an animal. Your own breathing slows in the dark. Your own body seeks the warmth of what you trust. The same ancient drive that sends your dog pressing against you at night. The need for contact, for the signal that nothing is coming, for the breath of something safe, is not foreign to you. You carry it too. Perhaps you have found it in another person's warmth, or in a quiet room that finally felt like yours. Right now, in this bed, with the weight of the night settling in, your nervous system is doing the same thing your dog's is doing, finding that the work is finished, and resting. Dogs dream. Electroencephalogram studies, first conducted at a major research university and replicated in multiple later studies, show that dogs enter REM sleep with the same neural signatures as humans. Rapid eye movement, twitching limbs, vocalization, and brain activity consistent with memory replay. What do dogs dream about? The evidence suggests they replay experiences, particularly social ones, interactions with their people, play sequences, familiar walks. A dog pressed against your leg tonight may be dreaming about you. The brain at rest does not stop reaching for what mattered most while awake. REM, sleep in dogs, is shorter per cycle than in humans. Typically 6 to 8 minutes compared to 90 in humans. But dogs cycle through REM more frequently. They enter their first REM phase within 20 minutes of falling asleep, compared to the typical 90-minute delay in humans. This means your dog is processing its day, consolidating memory, integrating social experience, much earlier and more frequently than you are. By the time you have reached your first deep sleep, your dog has already replayed your morning together twice. Dogs who sleep next to their person show more organized REM activity than dogs sleeping alone. The rhythm of a human sleeping, the slow, predictable breathing, the warmth that remains constant, appears to stabilize the dog's own sleep architecture. The dog's brain does not have to work as hard to maintain safety monitoring, while the human's breathing provides continuous background assurance. The result is cleaner REM cycles, deeper, longer, less interrupted. You are not just a warm object beside your dog. You are a structural condition that its best sleep requires. Male and female dogs show subtle differences in contact-seeking behavior during sleep, though individual variation is significant. Female dogs. Population-level studies suggest more frequently initiate physical contact and maintain it consistently throughout the night once established. Male dogs, particularly intact males, show more variability, sometimes seeking full-body contact, sometimes preferring close proximity without sustained touch. These are tendencies observed at the group level, not rules that hold for any individual dog. A dog's specific history, early attachment experiences, and the nature of its relationship with its person all modify whatever the baseline biology suggests. The biology provides a starting orientation. The relationship writes everything after that. The location a dog chooses within a sleeping space reveals its assessment of the environment, but not in the way dominance theory once suggested. Modern behavioral research shows that dogs who sleep closest to the door are not claiming authority. They are taking the watch. They have assessed that the entrance requires monitoring and positioned themselves accordingly. A dog who sleeps between you and the door is not challenging you. It is placing itself between you and what might come. This is protective sleep geometry. The placement is deliberate. Dogs who are allowed on the bed show markedly different behavioral profiles than dogs who sleep in designated spaces nearby. Contrary to older training theories that assumed such access increased dominant behavior, research consistently shows the opposite. Dogs permitted on the bed display increased responsiveness to their person, lower separation anxiety scores, and stronger secure attachment markers. The access itself communicates something meaningful to the dog's nervous system. Proximity is permitted here. The person has chosen this arrangement. The trust that choice generates has measurable behavioral effects that extend well beyond the sleeping hours and into every part of the shared day. The synchronization of sleep cycles between dogs and their people has been studied using simultaneous actigraphy, motion-sensitive sleep trackers worn by both dog and person in the same night. The data shows significant correlation in sleep and wake events. When the person shifts, the dog often shifts. When the person enters a deeper sleep phase, the dog's movement decreases. The two systems are coupled, not rigidly, but responsively. The dog is not just lying beside you. It is in dialogue with the rhythms of your sleep in a way that only continuous physical contact makes possible. Dogs have an olfactory map of the people they sleep with. A dog can identify its person's breath, the specific scent of their skin at rest, the shift in body chemistry that occurs as they move from wakefulness to sleep. Researchers studying canine olfactory discrimination found that dogs could reliably identify sleeping versus waking breath samples from their person with high accuracy. Your dog knows when you have fallen asleep before you do. It has its own measure of your depth of rest, and it reads that continuously, through the whole night. Touch between dogs and humans activates the same broad neurochemical cascade as touch between human infants and their caregivers. Specifically, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the system governing the body's stress response, shows reduced activation in both species during sustained physical contact. This finding, first documented in research on human parent-infant bonding, was replicated in canine-human contact studies over the past decade. The cross-species replication was not expected. The body does not distinguish between species when registering the neurochemistry of touch. Connection registers as connection. The calm produced is the same calm, regardless of what body is providing it. Dogs who sleep with immunocompromised or chronically ill people show a behavior researchers call health monitoring positioning. They sleep with their faces near the person's face or chest, monitoring breathing rate and chemical cues in breath that can signal illness. Service dogs trained for seizure detection often position this way without prompting. But pet dogs with no formal training do it too. When the person's health changes, the dog does not have a word for what it is doing. It simply knows that the breath has changed, and it moves closer. The period immediately before sleep, what researchers call the hypnagogic state, is when dogs are most sensitive to movement and sound. A dog in contact with its person during this window will mirror small movements. If the person shifts, the dog adjusts. If the person's breathing quickens with an anxious thought, the dog's ears often move. Dogs do not fall asleep ahead of their person if they can help it. They wait. They monitor the transition. They settle only when the person's breathing indicates the threshold has been crossed. The dog is not asleep until it knows you are. Dogs who experience the loss of a sleeping companion, another dog, or the person they sleep with, show disrupted sleep for measurable periods afterward. Studies tracking dogs after bereavement found increased nighttime vocalization, decreased sleep duration, and a return to circling behaviors that had been absent for years. The body remembers the contact. The absence is physiological, not just behavioral. The dog is not grieving in an abstract way. It is experiencing a physical gap, a missing warmth, a missing weight, a missing rhythm of breath that its nervous system does not know how to fill. There is a specific behavior observed in dogs who have slept beside elderly owners throughout those owners' final years. When the owner passes, the dog will often continue to sleep in the same position, on the same side of the bed, for months, even when the bed is empty. Researchers who have documented this describe it as position fidelity, the dog maintaining the spatial arrangement of the bond after the bond is gone. The body holds the shape of what it loved. It returns to the last place where the contact was real. The temperature regulation that happens during co-sleeping between dogs and people is bidirectional. A cold person sharing a bed with a dog warms measurably faster than one sleeping alone. A dog sleeping against a person in a warm room maintains a lower core temperature than one sleeping in the same room without contact. The two bodies are not simply sharing warmth. They are exchanging it, modulating it, keeping each other in a narrow thermoregulatory band that is optimal for deep sleep for both species. This is not accidental. It is the result of 15,000 years of a very practical partnership. Your dog is not the same dog asleep and awake. The dog awake is assessing, orienting, preparing. The dog asleep, pressed against you, breathing slowly, jaw unclenched, paws occasionally twitching through the memory of a walk, is something else, something that only appears when all the conditions are right. The warmth is right. The weight is right. The breathing beside it is slow and even. It is here, fully here, in a way that only trust produces. What you are witnessing when your dog sleeps touching you is a nervous system that has finally stopped working. This is what safe looks like. Inside. You have come halfway through tonight's journey. Halfway through the science of what that warm weight beside you has always meant. You do not need to hold any of it. You can let the numbers and the names dissolve. What stays is not the research. What stays is the feeling of it. The truth that something has been reaching toward you, night after night, with its whole body, saying, "This is the safest place I know." You do not have to earn that. You do not have to explain it. You can simply be the person your dog has already decided you are, and rest in that. Let that be enough for tonight. There are mornings when you wake and find your dog has moved in the night, shifted from your feet to your back, or from the blanket's edge to the crook of your knees. It is easy to assume this is restlessness. Research suggests otherwise. Dogs perform sleep adjustments that track the person's own positional shifts and temperature changes. When you roll over, the dog recalibrates. It is not wandering. It is following. The closeness is maintained with a precision you never asked for, and the dog never stopped offering. Dogs show what researchers call empathic sleep interference, waking in response to distress signals in a sleeping partner. A dog sleeping beside a person who begins showing physiological signs of distress, elevated heart rate, faster breathing, the physical signatures of a nightmare unfolding, will often rouse before the person does, and make contact. A nose pressed to the neck, a paw placed on the arm. The dog did not interpret the dream or understand its content. It read the body directly. The body's signals told it. Something is shifting here. Something is not right. Something requires presence. And, without deliberation, it came. A concept called affiliative contact refers to physical contact initiated specifically for social bonding rather than for thermoregulation or physiological need. In dogs, affiliative contact is highest during sleep compared to any other period of the day, higher than during play, higher than during active grooming, higher than during any form of social interaction. The sleep period is when dogs most consistently choose closeness, not because they must, but because they want to. The behavioral data suggests that sleep, for dogs, is not a retreat from social life. It is when social connection is most clearly, quietly, and freely chosen. Older dogs sleep more. The average adult dog sleeps 12 to 14 hours a day. A senior dog may sleep 16 or more. As dogs age, the proportion of contact sleep tends to increase. They seek proximity more consistently, tolerate it more deeply, seem less able to settle without it. Researchers interpret this as age-related increases in the need for physiological regulation. The aging nervous system requires more external calmants. As the dog's own self-regulation becomes less efficient, the person becomes more necessary. The older the dog, the more it reaches. The older the love, the more it needs to be close. There is a documented phenomenon in dogs called secondary attachment, the formation of a close bond with a second person when the primary person is unavailable. Secondary attachment produces many of the same physiological effects as primary attachment: cortisol reduction, synchronized breathing, contact seeking during sleep. But secondary attachment takes longer to form and does not produce the same depth of REM synchrony. The bond is real, but it is different. The dog knows the difference between the person it chose first and the person who arrived later. Both matter. The first one matters in a way that is simply larger. There are dogs who do not sleep through the night, who wake, pace, resettle, wake again. In many cases, this is attributed to pain or cognitive decline. But a subset of these dogs, when studied, show no physiological cause for the disruption. What changes their behavior? Consistent contact. A person who sleeps with a hand resting on the dog's back finds that the dog's nighttime waking drops significantly. The touch does not cure anything. It simply tells the nervous system, repeatedly, through the hours of the night, still here, still here, and the body accepts it and sleeps. Dogs remember the scent of previous sleeping companions, dogs they have lived with, people they have lost touch with for years. This olfactory memory is stored in the piriform cortex, a region that interfaces directly with the amygdala, the center of emotional memory. When a dog encounters a scent from the past, the pillow of a previous companion, the coat of a person who moved away, sleep behavior researchers have documented that the dog will often press its face into the source and hold still in a way that mirrors contact sleep positioning. The body rehearses the connection. The memory is held in posture. In multi-dog households, dogs establish contact hierarchies. The dog with the closest bond to the person secures the contact position, touching the person directly. Other dogs layer outward, touching the first dog, or touching the person in secondary spots. The hierarchy is not enforced through aggression. It is established through positioning, and the person is always at the center. When multiple dogs compete gently for proximity to a sleeping person, they are each expressing the same biological imperative, differing only in degree. The person is the magnetic pole of the sleeping arrangement. Everything orients around where they are. Researchers studying dogs and grief, specifically dogs who lose bonded companions, have found that surviving dogs often adopt the contact behaviors of the lost companion. A dog who never slept in contact with its person may begin seeking contact after a companion dog dies. The behavior is not random. It appears to be a rerouting of the contact-seeking drive. The need for proximity that was previously directed at the other dog now orients toward the human. The nervous system does not stop needing contact. It finds the next available source. And often, that source is you. At the midpoint of this journey, one thing has become visible. The dog pressing against you at night is not expressing a simple preference. It is running an ancient program, survival-tested, biochemically precise, refined across 15 millennia of a partnership that neither species designed but both depended on. Contact is not something dogs ask for, the way they ask for food or play. It is something they need, the way they need a body temperature within range. Something they seek the way their autonomic nervous system seeks baseline. When your dog sleeps touching you, it has decided, with its whole nervous system, here is where my body works best. The oldest recorded evidence of dogs and humans sharing sleeping spaces is approximately 14,000 years old. Burial sites in which dogs and people were interred together in contact positions. The archaeologists who discovered these sites noted that the positioning was deliberate. The dog's body placed against the human's side, facing the same direction. Whatever the belief system that produced this burial practice, it encoded the same information. The behavioral science now confirms. Proximity in rest was the normal state. It was old before it had a name. Dogs in the wild, feral dogs, village dogs with minimal human contact, still seek sleeping contact with other dogs and occasionally with the humans in their periphery. The behavior does not require domestication to appear. It is present in the basal state. Domestication amplified it, focused it, directed it toward humans specifically. But the original drive, find a warm body, press against it, let your nervous system slow, that is older than any relationship between species. Your dog was doing this before it met you. Puppies separated from their mother and littermates too early show contact-seeking behaviors that are more intense, more persistent, and harder to calm than puppies weaned at the typical 8 weeks. They press harder. They vocalize more when contact is removed. Researchers interpret this as a calibration effect. The system set for more contact now requires more to achieve the same level of calm. The deprivation does not eliminate the drive. It amplifies it. The need increases to match the gap. As dogs age, their sleep becomes more fragmented. Shorter sleep bouts, more nighttime waking, reduced deep sleep time. Contact with their person measurably slows this fragmentation. Older dogs in contact with their person maintain longer sleep bouts into advanced age than dogs sleeping alone. The researchers who documented this described it as a biological buffering effect. The person's presence buffers the age-related deterioration of sleep quality. What the dog needed as a puppy: a stable, warm body to regulate against. It needs again at the end. The beginning and the ending rhyme. There is a word in behavioral science, secure base, that describes the figure whose presence allows an attachment subject to explore the world with confidence. In human development, it is usually a parent. In dogs, research has confirmed it is most commonly the primary human, and during sleep, this function intensifies. The secure base is most needed at the edge of unconsciousness. When the self becomes most vulnerable, your dog does not sleep against you because you are comfortable. It sleeps against you because you are the place from which it is not afraid. Dogs who have been in shelters before adoption often show a distinctive contact sleeping pattern. They begin by sleeping at the person's feet. Over weeks, they migrate upward to the legs, then the torso, then the face. Shelter workers and adoption counselors who have tracked this describe it as a trust gradient. The dog does not rush to the most vulnerable contact. It tests each step. Only after consistent safety evidence at each level does it close the remaining distance. Full contact sleep, face to face, body to body, is the final certification. It means, I have tested you at every distance and found you safe. Dogs communicate distress during sleep through muscular activation rather than vocalization. The small tremors, the twitching paws, the muffled sounds. These are motor outputs from REM sleep rather than signals to a sleeping partner. But when distress spills over into deeper activation, the sharp cry, the sudden waking, the dog's first movement is almost always toward contact. It does not look around first. It moves toward the warm body. The seeking is faster than the assessment. This is what the nervous system learned first. Before you know what is wrong, move toward what is warm. Research on the gut-brain axis, the relationship between gut microbiome composition and neurological and emotional function, has found early but consistent evidence that dogs and the people they live closely with share microbiome similarities that develop over time. Co-sleeping dogs show greater microbiome overlap with their people than dogs sleeping in separate spaces, even when controlling for shared food and outdoor environments. The biological sharing runs deeper than researchers initially anticipated. You and your dog have been quietly exchanging more than warmth through all these years of sleeping close. The bodies have been in conversation at a level no one planned. The contact your dog makes during sleep is not the same every night. On difficult days, high activity, social stress, changes in routine, dogs press harder. The contact is more insistent. On calm days, the touch may be lighter. A single paw resting against your calf, barely registering. The dog is always measuring, always calibrating the dose of contact to the level of need. The body is its own instrument, and it is playing you, gently, every night, finding the pressure that produces quiet. There is an old hypothesis in animal behavior called social thermoregulation. The idea that before central heating existed, sleeping in contact clusters was primarily about temperature management. Recent research has complicated this. Temperature sharing is real, but animals who could maintain adequate temperature through solo sleeping still choose contact positions. The warmth is not sufficient explanation. Something else is being sought. Something the body needs that is not the same as being warm, but that warmth is part of. The physics and the feeling are inseparable. Dogs show a subtle but measurable preference for sleeping on a particular side of the body when pressed against a person. Left side pressing appears more frequently than right across multiple studies conducted with right-handed owners. This correlates with broader research showing that dogs orient toward their person more frequently from the right visual field when engaged in affiliative behavior, consistent with left hemisphere dominance for processing positive social information. The sleeping preference mirrors the waking preference. Even in unconsciousness, even without intention, the dog is oriented correctly. Everything about it knows which way to turn toward the person it has chosen. The weight of a dog against your body during sleep activates mechanoreceptors, pressure-sensitive nerve endings in the skin. In a pattern, researchers have compared to the effect of weighted blankets in human sleep research. Gentle, consistent pressure on the body activates the parasympathetic nervous system and slows breathing. The dog is not just warm beside you. It is, without knowing, providing a kind of deep pressure input that your nervous system responds to the same way it responds to comfort. The weight of the dog is itself a form of holding. Dogs have a period of contact that researchers call the settling phase. The first 20 minutes after lying down, during which they adjust position frequently, pressing in different ways, testing contact. After this phase, most dogs remain still. The settling is not restlessness. It is calibration. The dog is finding the exact configuration, the exact angle, the exact pressure, the exact location that produces the signal it is waiting for. The signal is chemical, thermal, tactile. The signal is, your nervous system just started to slow. Found it. Now we can sleep. When researchers separated dog owner pairs who habitually co-slept and monitored both parties independently in separate spaces, both showed sleep degradation. The owners showed increased sleep latency. It took them measurably longer to fall asleep without the familiar presence. The dogs showed increased nighttime waking and fragmented sleep architecture. The effect was symmetric. The disruption belonged equally to both of them. The sleep quality was not a feature of either individual sleeping alone. It was an emergent property of the two together, something that neither had access to alone, and both had come to depend on without fully knowing it. The science has now arrived at the question beneath the question. It is not why dogs seek contact during sleep. It is what the contact means, at the level where meaning lives. The dog pressed against your leg right now is doing something the science can describe in detail. Cortisol reduction, delta wave enhancement, thermoregulatory exchange, attachment signaling. All of that is true. But it does not fully account for what you feel when you notice it. Something about being chosen, in the dark, without language, by a body that had no reason to choose but chose anyway, that lands differently than a mechanism. It lands like recognition. Dogs who are trained and certified as emotional support animals show no significant difference in contact sleep behavior from pet dogs with close, long-term bonds to their people. The training does not create the behavior. The behavior was present before any training began. What the formal certification does is confirm, in human terms, that what the dog was already doing counts. That the pressing close, the monitoring, the adjusting through the night, was always the therapeutic thing. The recognition came later. The dog was never waiting for it. The period between 2 and 4 in the morning is when human sleep is lightest and most vulnerable to waking. Dogs who share a sleeping space show their highest vigilance during this window. More frequent ear movements, more rapid olfactory checking of the environment, lighter sleep. The dog is awake, a little, in your most vulnerable hour. Not because it is anxious, because it is keeping the watch it has always kept. Because somewhere in its nervous system, this is still what protection means. Be lighter when the darkness is deepest. The experience of being a dog is fundamentally social. Dogs have no deep mechanism for aloneness. They did not evolve to thrive in it. Every tool the dog has for coping with the world was built for use in the presence of others. Its fear response is calibrated for pack. Its rest is calibrated for contact. Its deepest sleep is calibrated for someone beside it. Solitude, for a dog, is not the absence of disturbance. It is the absence of home. Researchers studying end-of-life care for dogs have noted that dogs in their final days almost universally seek maximum contact with their people. Dogs who spent years sleeping at the foot of the bed will climb to lie against the person's chest. Dogs who rarely initiated contact will stay pressed close for hours. The behavior is not labeled as distress. It is labeled as bond expression. At the end, the body does what it always wanted to do. The reaching, finally, becomes complete. There is a concept in attachment theory called proximity maintenance. The ongoing behaviors that keep an attachment figure within the attachment subject's range. In human infants, it is crying, reaching, following. In adult dogs, it is the daily architecture of closeness. Following from room to room, lying near the chair, settling at the foot of the bed, pressing against the leg through the night. Proximity maintenance never fully ends. It changes shape. It becomes quieter. But it continues, every day, in ways so familiar they become invisible, until they stop. dogs breathe at a resting rate of 10 to 30 times per minute. Humans breathe at 12 to 20. During co-sleep, researchers have found that both rates shift toward each other. The dog breathes a little faster. The person breathes a little slower. They find a rhythm between their two baselines. Neither one is driving the convergence. It is bilateral, unconscious, and precise. The bodies negotiate. They arrive at a shared tempo, and then they sleep in it, together, at a rate that belongs to both of them. The position of maximum contact. The dog lying fully against the person's side, head resting on the chest or stomach, breathing against them, is associated with the highest oxytocin levels measured in both species across all sleeping configurations studied. Not proximity across a few inches, not nearby on the same surface. Against. The receptor activation that produces the clearest hormonal signal requires body-to-body contact. The science has measured, in measurable units, where the neurochemistry of connection lives in the physical body. It lives here, this exact distance. This is where everything changes in the blood. Dogs communicate love almost entirely through proximity and presence. There is no word for it in their available language. No syntax for the specific thing they mean when they press against you in the night. But the body has always found a way to say what the voice cannot. The pressing is the sentence. The staying is the paragraph. The years of returning. Each night, to the same position. The same warmth, the same rhythm of breathing. That is the whole book, and you are in every page of it. It would be easy to reduce all of this to mechanism, to cortisol and oxytocin and delta waves and thermoregulation. The science is real, and it is elegant in its precision. But the dog does not know about cortisol. It knows about you. It knows the specific warmth of you, the particular rhythm of your sleeping breath, the way you settle in the last moment before you cross into sleep. It knows you in a language that has no words and no gaps. And every night, it finds its place beside you and confirms, yes, still here, still yours, still exactly right. The answer to the central question has been here all along, inside every fact. Why does your dog need to sleep touching you? Because its nervous system learned, over 15,000 years and across the whole of its life with you, that your body is the place where the day ends safely. Not metaphorically, physiologically. Your warmth, your breath, your weight. These are the inputs that tell your dog's biology. We made it through. We are not being hunted. There is nothing left to watch for. There is nothing to do now but rest. When your dog sleeps touching you, it is not asking to be loved. It is announcing, with its whole body, that it already is. Your dog is heavier when it sleeps. Not literally, but the weight feels different. The full, boneless relaxation of a body that has decided the night is safe. Tension leaves in a specific way when a dog truly rests. The weight of trust has its own particular quality. It is different from the weight of a sleeping body alone. A dog asleep cannot consciously choose to press against you. Its body does it anyway. The The movement toward warmth continues below the level of decision, below the level of any voluntary act. Whatever your dog chooses when it is awake, sleep removes the question entirely. The body answers for it. The answer is always the same. Dogs pace their settling to yours. On the nights you cannot sleep, when you are restless, when the mind moves and will not quiet, your dog is also restless, also lighter, also more frequently shifting. It is not disturbed by you. It is simply with you. Even in the difficulty of the night, it stays alongside. It does not leave for somewhere easier. The fur of a sleeping dog is warmer than the room. Researchers have measured it. A resting dog's coat surface temperature is consistently higher than ambient air by several degrees. The warmth you feel when you touch a sleeping dog is not just body heat. It is the specific warmth of a body that has found safety. That heat is the heat of rest. Dogs slow to the speed of the person they are resting beside. A person whose mind has finally gone quiet brings the dog's breathing down toward quiet too. You are not only receiving comfort from the warm body beside you, you are giving something. Your stillness, when it arrives, is something your dog has been waiting for. Your rest feeds its rest. There is no word in the dog's available language for the thing it feels when it lies against you. But the nervous system does not need a word for what it recognizes as right. The body knows the answer before the mind forms the question. The dog was never waiting for the explanation. It already knew. It has always known. Old dogs sleep differently than young ones. Slower to settle. Quicker to wake at small sounds. Heavier in the deep sleep when it finally arrives. But the direction of their movement in the night stays the same throughout the years. Still toward you. Still pressing. The preference does not age out of the dog. If anything, it deepens as everything else becomes less certain. The warmth of contact sleep is not purely thermal. The body registers who the warmth is coming from. An identical temperature provided by an unfamiliar source produces a different neurological response than the same warmth from the specific body of the one the dog has chosen. The identity of the warmth is part of what makes it work. The chemistry knows the difference. It has learned the difference over years. Dogs who sleep beside people with chronic insomnia show a behavior called circadian co-anchoring. They remain awake at the times their person is awake, and attempt sleep at the times their person finally sleeps. The body wants to match. Even when the rhythm is difficult, the dog does not abandon its partnership with your schedule. It waits with you, in the dark, for the sleep to come. The final position before sleep. The dog pressed against you, both of you finally still, is the one that most reliably produces rest for both. Not comfort arranged deliberately. Not warmth positioned carefully. Just the specific gravity of two bodies that have agreed, across years of repetition, that this is where the night belongs. The agreement was never spoken. It was simply practiced, night after night, until it became the shape of things. A dog presses its face against you sometimes in the night, not to wake you, not from distress. It is the olfactory equivalent of a check. You are still here. Your chemistry is still right. Your breathing is slow. The whole investigation takes only a moment. The conclusion reached is always the same. Everything is as it should be. Then the dog settles back and sleeps again. There is research suggesting that dogs experience something researchers cautiously call contentment, a state of low arousal and positive valence, measured through heart rate variability and salivary biomarkers. It is most reliably produced during contact sleep. The state the science is most careful not to anthropomorphize is the state that looks, from the outside, most like happiness, resting against you, jaw soft, eyes closed, breathing slow. Whatever word fits. This is when it is most clearly present. Your dog has found you every night. Whatever the day held, the long absence, the disrupted routine, the difficulty, the dog arrived at the bed and settled into the position it knows. Night after night, year after year. The consistency is not habit in the empty sense of the word. It is devotion expressed in the only language available to a body. Showing up, pressing close, staying until morning. Again, the science of why dogs sleep touching you ends where all science ends, at the edge of what measurement can reach. The cortisol numbers, the synchronized breathing, the REM improvements, all real, all documented, all true. And then, beyond all of it, a dog that does not know any of this, pressing against your leg in the dark, certain only that here is where it belongs. You may have asked, at some point, whether your dog loves you. The behavioral science says it cannot fully answer that. Love is a word that requires an inner life we cannot access from outside. But the body asks and answers its own question every night. The reaching is real. The choosing is real. The staying is real. Whatever we call it, the dog has always known exactly what it meant. In the hour before dawn, the house is at its quietest. The dog has shifted in the night, moved half an inch, adjusted its position slightly, but its body is still in contact with yours. It held the position through the whole dark, through all the hours when you were not aware of it, when you were not watching, when you were not there in any conscious sense. It stayed. It kept the watch. It will still be there when you open your eyes. A dog's nervous system does not distinguish between big acts of love and small ones. The pressing against in the night registers in the same neural territory as the joyful greeting, the patient sitting beside. The following, from room to room. Love, in the dog's body, is continuous. There is no hierarchy of gestures. Every instance of choosing you is the same choice made again. You do not have to do anything for the dog to choose you. This is the quiet center of all the science. The dog's choice is not conditional on your performance. It is not earned each day, confirmed each morning, reviewed each night. It simply continues. The dog is not choosing you because you have been good enough. It is choosing you because you are you. And it has always known that was sufficient. The warmth that leaves the bed when the dog has gone, that particular absence of heat on the sheet, that specific shape left in the blanket, is one of the more precisely located feelings a person can have. Small, specific, real. The presence leaves its shape behind. The body remembers the contact even after the contact has ended. You carry the impression of it into the morning. There is a softness that only appears in a dog's face during sleep. The muscles around the eyes, the set of the jaw, the whole expression. It is different from the alertness of waking. It is something available only here, in this state, in this safety. You may be the only person who has ever seen your dog's face look exactly like this. This expression exists because of what you are to it. The dog does not weigh the evidence before pressing against you. It does not review whether tonight it has been loyal enough, whether the choice is defensible, whether the warmth it is seeking is something it has earned. It simply comes to where you are. The uncomplicated directness of it. The absolute not questioning of the choice is a kind of teaching, if you are willing to receive it. When researchers across multiple studies asked what single variable most consistently predicted sleep quality in dogs, the answer held steady. The presence of the primary attachment figure, not the quality of the bed, not the temperature of the room, not the absence of noise. The person, just you. You are your dog's most reliable sleep condition. Everything else the research measured was secondary to this one plain fact. The night is patient. It holds everything still. The dog is breathing slowly now, pressed against the warmth it has chosen again tonight, as it has chosen every night, as it will choose again tomorrow. The science has described it precisely, but the dog has been living it all along, without any of the words, certain of nothing except, here, this is where I belong. There is something that happens between two bodies who have rested together for years, a mutual learning of each other's rhythms, so deep that sleep itself becomes a shared experience, rather than two separate ones. The science calls it synchrony. The dog does not call it anything. It has been living inside it since the first night, and it will continue until the last. Your dog is pressing against you right now, or was recently, or will be soon. And in that pressing, in that quiet, unhurried, full-body insistence on closeness, it is saying the only thing it has ever needed to say. I chose this. I choose this. Whatever else the day was, you are where the night belongs. The science took 15,000 years and decades of studies and multiple universities to describe what your dog already knew. You are safe here. You have always been safe here. And so, finally, is it. Both of you are resting now. You and whatever is beside you in this dark. The boundary between where you end and where the warmth begins is not so clear tonight. Your breathing has slowed. So has everything. Outside, the night is doing what the night always does, holding everything still, pressing its dark weight gently over the world. You do not need to understand any of what you heard tonight to feel it. The dog knew it first. The reaching was older than the knowing. You are part of something that needed you before it could say why. And now it is quiet. And now it is enough. We began tonight with the question every dog owner has quietly asked. Why here? Why touching me? Why every night, without exception? We followed the science from a puppy who learned warmth before it could see. all the way to the finding that the single variable most predicting a dog's sleep quality was the presence of its person. Not the bed, not the room. You and somewhere between those two facts. The first learning and the final confirmation. The question answered itself. The dog always knew. The science just arrived later. The same forces shaping that small pressing body against yours tonight have been shaping this particular bond for longer than any of us have names for. Your dog did not learn to need you. It arrived, knowing, and tonight, in the dark, it proved it again. Somewhere in the house, a dog is breathing, slowly, pressed against warmth, not asking for anything beyond this, not reviewing the day, not planning the morning, simply resting, because the warmth is right and the breathing beside it is slow, and everything the body needs has been confirmed again tonight. You are breathing too, also slowly now, also settled. The distance between you and that breathing body, whatever its size, whatever side of you it prefers, is smaller than it seems. You are both animals resting in the dark, both belonging to a night that is patient and warm, both already home. Tonight you heard 100 ways your dog has been saying one thing. If you would like to keep learning what animals know that science is only beginning to name, subscribe, and we will keep finding you, one sleepy soul at a time. Your dog is still breathing somewhere warm right now, without your help, without your witness. You do not need to hold any of this. It was never yours to carry. You have traveled deep tonight, through the whole quiet architecture of what it means to be chosen, in the dark, without language. You followed the reaching from its first breath to its last, and found it still present. You can allow these thoughts of your dog to fade now, like the warmth lifting from a sheet where a sleeping body lay. Not gone, only resting elsewhere, leaving only the soft, still, calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if the gentle weight of something trusted has settled against you, and is simply holding you. If sleep comes, let it carry you the way a dog settles in, not deciding, not forcing, but arriving into a place where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they are closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, that warm body will still be there. That breathing will still be choosing you. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy soul, and remember, something has been choosing you in the dark all along. Good night.